order the Historic Preservation City of Tampa. The time is 9 a.m. on the dot. We welcome everyone. I am your chair, Dominique Cobb, of the Historic Preservation. I would like to introduce our other commissioners, or I will let you introduce yourself, starting from
Bruce Gibson.
Carrie Ann Canch.
Susan Swift.
Tom Buck.
Thank you. And I would like to also introduce our staff. We don't have Dennis Fernandez here today, but we do have Elaine Lund, Alexis Guzman, who's not here today, Heather Bond, and attorney Kamara Pattis-Mackle. Thank you all for coming today. All right. If you're here to present a project, you will have limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest you be thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners won't ask any questions during your presentation. And also, if you have a phone, if you can please put it on silence during this time. All right. At this time, we will have the commissioners have the reading of the minutes for September 17th, 2024.
I move to approve the minutes.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, we will accept the minutes for September the 17th, 2024.
Good morning, Commissioners. Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation staff. We welcome you to the Historic Preservation Commission meeting this morning. We do have a couple of announcements before we get started. First, in your packets, you will find our newsletter for this month, the Tampa Bricks and Mortar, giving you some information about current events in historic preservation, including some updates on funding for the Guida House rehabilitation, and some information about the West Tampa Free Public Library, the 140-year-old Morrison House in Tampa Heights, and just a quick overview of one of the Secretary of the Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties, Standard 4. Also in your packets this morning, we have some information about an upcoming workshop that you may find of interest. This is being presented by the Tampa Downtown Partnership on the economics of historic preservation on Tuesday, November 19th. And if you need more information about that, you can visit their website, tampasdowntown.com. Moving along, we have a quick presentation for you, our Preservation in Progress segment. This morning we're going to discuss the Sexton House at the Oak Lawn Cemetery, which recently went through a rehabilitation. It was, the Sexton House is located in Oak Lawn and St. Louis cemeteries off Harrison Street near the intersection with Jefferson Street in downtown Tampa. Oak Lawn Cemetery is established in 1850. It first appears on our Sanborn maps, however, in 1915. There's no building in the cemetery prior to that point, so there was no reason for the Sanborn maps, which served for fire insurance purposes, to cover that area prior to that date. However, the Sexton House was built about 1910, and the cemetery itself was designated as a local historic landmark in 2011. It is also listed in the National Register of Historic Places. This was a staff review and approval for the rehabilitation to the building. The rehabilitation included repairs to the roof, the siding, and the front porch, including the deck and the ceiling of the porch. You can see some of the pictures from before the rehabilitation. There had been a fire in the building at one point, and you can see that some of the porch ceiling and the foundation skirting was in need of repair as well. And then this is how the Sexton House looks now after the rehabilitation work. So with that, we'll move along in our agenda and do the conflict of interest and ex parte communication.
Good morning. Kamaria Pettisnakle from the City Attorney's Office. Will their commissioners please state whether or not they have any conflicts of interest regarding the item that's on the agenda?
None.
Thank you. Furthermore, will the commissioners please state whether or not they've had any ex parte communications regarding the item that's on the agenda?
None.
Thank you so much.
The next item on our agenda this morning is the swear-in.
Please raise your right hand and stand if you plan on giving testimony today. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will be providing today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you. Okay, moving along on our agenda, the first action item, or the only action item that we have today is regarding a historic district boundary adjustment for the Tampa Heights Historic District. This is application number HPC-24-000039 for the address 206 West Columbus Drive. The Tampa Heights Historic District was adopted by Tampa City Council in 2000. At that time, there were a couple of sites that were brought to the city's attention that were, one being the house adjacent to this, or that is the subject, the house that is on the property that is the subject of today's discussion. 202 West Columbus Drive. This is considered sort of a satellite site to the historic district. Back in 2000, this was included with the initial designation, along with another house on Palm Avenue. Later, 2 additional satellite sites were added to the Tampa Heights Historic District. They were both relocations that were determined to be worthy of designation, and the city sought to find a way to protect these sites, and adding them to the historic district was considered at the time to be the best way to go about that. So I'm going to go over just a little orientation to the site before I have the applicant come forward to present the request. So this is the property at 206 West Columbus Drive. It's currently a vacant parcel. You can see the property that is the subject, part of the subject site is shown in the blue boundary there. That's what's currently addressed as 206 West Columbus Drive. The green rectangle that you'll see on the maps throughout the presentation that I'll be sharing today is what was included in the original designation. This is the original boundary, the original site that was part of 202 West Columbus Drive, where the Pippin House is located at the corner of Columbus Drive and Highland Avenue. You can see that there is an overlap between the blue line and the green line there. That's our little red dashed line, which is the portion that the applicant is coming forward to discuss with you today. This is the portion of the district proposed for removal, which is the vacant portion of this site. Again, here's the picture looking into the site from Columbus Drive. This is looking from the alley into the site, so we're looking north. This is the adjacent property that's included in the historic district. The Pippin House was built circa 1902. This is looking at the Pippin House from Highland Avenue. So we're looking west in this photograph. This is the parcel directly to the west of the subject site. You can see the new construction on it. This is looking east along Columbus Drive, and give you some a feel for the surrounding area. The parcel that's our subject of our request today is to your right. And then looking west down Columbus Drive, you can see some of the new construction in the area there, and the subject site's just to our left. So with that, I will pause my presentation and have the applicant come forward to present their request.
Good morning, Commissioner Steve Michelini, representing the applicant. I'd like to go through a couple of things for you briefly and show you the respective location of what we're asking for. This is the historic district boundaries. And you can see that this is an out parcel. It's approximately 3.5, nearly 4 blocks away from the main jurisdictional boundaries. The portion that I've highlighted in yellow here is 32 feet wide. It's a vacant parcel and does not meet any of the criteria for being included in the historic district. We're not really sure exactly why it was split off, but at some point it was added to the adjacent Pippin House. There's a detail of exactly what we're talking about, and we're asking for this portion to be removed from the historic district so that it can be recombined with the original plat and the original lot that was added here. The removal of this does not adversely affect the main Pippin House property. It maintains its same integrity, and the guidelines that are in the historic preservation ordinance indicate that a vacant lot cannot be contributing to the historic district significance. This is the front view, and we've worked with the city staff. This wall is considered to be historic in nature and design, and we will continue that along the front of the property if you approve the removal of this certain portion of it. As I said, the lot is 32 feet wide and it's approximately 124 feet in length. It is considered to be an out parcel, and in the staff report you'll see on the criteria, there is no building or structure that's adversely affected. It has no indication of any adverse effect upon the quality or significance of the district. It maintains the character. We are planning in the redevelopment stage to have something that's compatible and is a transitional design that moves eastward toward the original Pippin House. The original criteria for adding that, as I said, it's almost 4 blocks away from the main district boundaries. And in the staff report, they indicate, if you look on the last page, it says that a vacant lot cannot contribute to a historic district, and the removal will not have any negative impacts upon the district. So, there we go with the main structure, show you the relevance. Again, at a diagonal, it's a little more than four blocks away. If you're walking, some of the measurements indicate you'd be nearly a quarter mile away from the main district. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. I mean, we go into more detail if you like, but I think it's fairly straightforward. It has no adverse impact. We're not even sure why it was split off and joined with the other lot, but it did create a non-conformancy on this side, on the 206 side, as opposed to the 202 side. And the setbacks are still consistent. It's zoned commercial, so it will not have any adverse impact on either the zoning or the development or the protection of 202 Columbus. Like I said, I know I have more time, but I think it's fairly straightforward. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have, but that concludes my presentation.
At this point, I'll proceed with the staff report. Elaine Lund again. As the applicant, Mr. Michelini, as the agent stated, originally this area was platted in 1886 with these nearly 82-foot wide lots. You can see the same color rectangles that I showed you earlier representing the same areas. So the green box shows you where the designated portion of the site is, including the Pippin House and the little piece of land that's now part of, or was always part of Lot 2 of this plat. The blue rectangle again showing you the entirety of what is now 206 West Columbus Drive, which consists of all of the Lot 2. And of course, that red line showing you the area in question. So again, this is, you're seeing the photo of the Pippin House here at 202 Columbus Drive. This is, the structure that was intended to be preserved by being listed as part of the historic district. This is the 1915 Sanborn map showing you how the properties were divided at that time. You can see that the property for 202, well, it was Michigan Avenue back in those days. It's now Columbus Drive, but you can see that the 202 was this wider parcel, and there was a building on 206 West Michigan or Columbus Drive at that point in time. So again, the Pippin House was built around 1902, we believe, for C.R. Pippin, who owned a dry goods store. This is showing you the 1931 Sanborn map, again with the Pippin House property shown at the corner there of Michigan or Columbus Drive and Highland Avenue. The same color rectangles indicating the same information. Mr. Pippin also worked in real estate and built several houses in the Tampa Heights area. However, we do not really have any additional information about Mr. Pippin other than what's basically available from our newspaper research, which consisted of a lot of advertisements for his dry goods store. So you can see on the Sanborn map that there was a accessory structure off the alley, an accessory structure for the adjacent parcel, the adjacent property off the alley as well. And it's, I'm pointing that out just to sort of emphasize that as the house sits today, there's currently a driveway coming in from Columbus Drive that was not likely used as a driveway, certainly not in 1902 when there would have been no vehicles on the property. The accessory structure was, well, by 1931 would have been used for auto storage, but any accessory structure such as the one from 1915, the 1915 one does say it was used for auto storage as well, but if there had been an accessory structure there prior to that point, I'm sorry, the point I'm trying to get at is that it wouldn't have been used for a car. It would have been for something such as a servant's quarters, something for the help, or like a stable or place for the carriage storage. By 2023, this is how the property parcels were divided. So you can see all of 202 West Columbus Drive, the Pippin House there, and the smaller parcel directly adjacent to it, which is 206 Columbus Drive. Today, that has been reconfigured. So we see that the 202 Columbus Drive, the parcel now is all of just block, all of lot 1 of that block. 206 Columbus Drive being all of lot 2, and then you can see how the properties adjacent there have been reconfigured for the condominium units. And again, those are the colors outlining, so you can see the original properties and then the subject site in question. So the applicable criteria and guidelines for evaluation for this request to remove the subject portion of the lot from the historic district, the applicable criteria would be the City of Tampa Code of Ordinance Section 27257, which is our designation criteria. So we would be looking at the same criteria that we would use to designate something as we would to undesignate it, basically. The subject lot does not meet the criteria for local historic designation. There is no building on it that can contribute to the historic district. There are no historic associations with any building there, as there is no building. So there is nothing architecturally significant at the site, and we are unaware of anything, any other particular associations with that portion of the lot. The removal of the subject lot will not have a negative impact on the historic district, and therefore staff is recommending that the HBC approve or recommend to City Council to approve the request for the boundary adjustment to the Tampa Heights Historic District. So with that, I'm available if you have any questions. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you were first.
So my question is, because it's just more for like clarification,
Certainly.
but in the 1886 Sanborn map, it looks like it was originally laid out, just, they divided them up equally, so there wasn't any. But it looks like the original owner bought up the second portion of that to make it bigger to fit the house. So the land was more to fit the house. So when the house was built in 1902, it could fit the parcel, because it would look weird. It's a corner lot. So then for it to anchor the corner, it would need a bigger property. That's why the wall, the stone wall, is actually a part of the original lot, how it was originally laid out. So I guess my question is, was the lot split up, like the owner, because I was reading the packet, or I was reading the presentation, it looks like the owner sold off that part of, because it was a part of that. That whole entire thing is actually the lot in 1915 and 1931. So it was subsequently sold
Yes.
off.
Yes.
So, I guess when I was looking at it, because I see the the new condominiums, it butts up right against the house, and it's just like, it's weird looking because it's cut off, because it really should have a bigger lot. But it's not a part of 202 now. So 202 really is a smaller lot, and that other lot is not a part of it at all.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask.
Yes, as far as property parcels and ownership go.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, I do have a number of questions about this. So you refer to this as the Pippin House?
Yes.
Do all the contributing structures within the Tampa Heights Historic District have a designation as each one, this is the such and such house?
Not all of them, only the ones that are where we have that information available.
So you know about this house? You have given us some
yes.
information about the owner?
Yes, and I did additional research as well for this particular case.
Okay, is that unusual then for a historic district with, there must be several, there are a couple, almost 300, I think, contributing structures in this district?
Yeah, no, it is, I would not say it's unusual at the, at the time that, I was not with the city in 2000, unfortunately, so I don't have firsthand knowledge of this, but my understanding is that the satellite sites that were chosen to be included at the time of the designation were selected because they did have the additional significance, and it was just a simpler route to make sure that they were protected rather than taking them through an individual landmark designation process, just to combine them with the district at that time.
Thank you. Following up on my colleague's comments, so the house that you showed us was a big house originally on a large parcel, so it was lot 1 and part of lot 2.
Yes.
And the house was assumed to have been built around 1902. And so the district was formed in 2000, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's 98 years. So essentially this house was on the lot on the same size parcel for 98 years.
Yes.
And then the portion was split off in 2023. So that was 23 years after the establishment of the historic district.
Yes.
Yes. So I do think that it's odd that there is this satellite property that's part of a district. And I would say that, the reason we're here today is because it has brought some unforeseen consequences, but I'm also worried about more unforeseen consequences. So just to continue a little further, reviewing the ordinance for the Historic Preservation Commission, mostly it's about the criteria for designation. So certainly at the time that it was designated, that entire lot was appropriate, I believe, to be in the district because it is historically the site of this large house, a large house on a large lot. And did the district boundary at that time also correspond with the ownership parcel?
Yes, the legal description for that portion of the historic district, as it was adopted, did include the entire property parcel for 202 Columbus Drive.
And I mean, I
Specific to that.
assume that because it was one parcel with this large house on it, that it was approved as part of the historic district because it, at that time, met the criteria that's listed in the ordinance. But what the ordinance doesn't say very often is, well, I could only find, I think, a phrase, 3 words, we're also to determine change in status. But I haven't, and this is perhaps a question for council, but are we supposed to unwind these in reverse order? I'm a little bit certain, other than the ownership of the land, what has changed here?
Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the legal department. Commissioners, and I'd ask staff to just remind the commissioners what address we're here for, what's on the agenda. And that's the basis of your decision, is the address that's on the agenda. 202, and I apologize, I didn't think of it right off the top of my head. 202 West Columbus Drive, as staff can reiterate, is not on the agenda. That designation is not before this board. So your decision on whether or not 206 meets the code criteria for 257 is solely on that address. It's not on whether or not 202 West Columbus meets, or whether or not this impacts 202 West Columbus, because that's not before you. So I would encourage the commissioners to be mindful that the item that's on the agenda is regarding 206 West Columbus, and whether or not you feel it meets the criteria of 27257. If, as a commission, you believe that 206 West Columbus does meet the criteria for 27257, you're more than welcome to make that type of motion. But your purview is only regarding the vacant lot at 206 West Columbus.
Thank you for reiterating that.
Follow up on that? I mean, because the staff does recommend that there's no adverse effect to 202, but you're saying that's not for us to consider.
Well, that could be something you want to, that could be something that you, if that's what you choose to do, but I just wanted to reiterate change the direction of the conversation or the questions, because this is the question phase of the agenda to staff or to the applicant, that it's whether or not 206 meets the code criteria.
Yeah.
So staff is just giving you information that if you find that 206 doesn't meet the criteria, that it won't have an impact on 202 West Columbus.
Okay, you're adding that impact on 202 though, at the end there.
I hear what you're saying, but staff is just providing that information to you.
Because I think, I mean, I support this, but I think it's an overstatement to say that there's no loss of integrity to 202. There's a loss of integrity of setting and feel.
I believe if, I don't know if this actually provides any clarification. I hope it doesn't muddle things anymore. But if this were a landmarked site instead of part of a historic district, we would be having a different conversation because we would be looking at the entire site and not just of the, that had been designated and not just considering just the ones.
I don't think the loss of integrity is severe
There's-
enough to say it impacts the significance or the eligibility, but I think, I think it's an overstatement to say that there's no loss of integrity to it too.
Also, I would like to add, I know that the site 202, the Pippin House, it wasn't a lot of information added, but during the 90s, I actually lived in that area, and that home was a rooming house for women. That was actually one of the first places that I went trick-or-treating in. The reason why I bring that up is because, you know, with this portion being possibly changed, my concern is the 6-foot wall. Yes, that property, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the house itself is historically preserved. But again, this wall that's going to be maintained, when this structure is moved or developed, will that wall change the aesthetics of the adjacent house, the 202? Because I see in the email portion, it says a 6-foot masonry, but does it contribute to the opposite side? Because again, if this smaller wall is staying, will the wall that is facing that historic property have some type of aesthetic change, or will it look the more modern style that is to the townhomes to the opposite side?
I don't want to get too deep into 202 and the adjacency issues, but I will indicate to you that we will be working with staff regarding the protection of the Pippin House, and anything that comes back, it won't come back to you, but it'll come back to the city council through a PD rezoning, will be addressed so that there is no adverse impact. I mean, we're very sensitive to that. That's why we wanted to extend the wall across the front so that it was showing some continuity between the two. And I also, one of the commissioners pointed out or asked a question about any adverse impact on the property itself. 202 will continue to function independently and will meet the code. It will have no adverse impact upon that property whatsoever. And this is a historic comment, that it was not unusual in the early days of Tampa for property owners to buy multiple lots. And then they were selling them off. I mean, I'm not just telling you this. This is documented in other areas throughout the city, where they would take these and the lots would become annuities for them for retirement or for, paying off other expenses. And they would be parceled off. This applicant did not create this lot. It was split off. It was added and then was split off before they acquired it. So what happened was the property owner at 202 actually created the issue when they split it off in 2023. And they were the ones that created this hardship. So anyway, our goal there is to recombine them, to add the 32 feet back as an approved adjacent parcel that will be sensitive to the Pippin House. And the staff knows this. We've been working with them for months on this. But anyway, it does not, the vacant lot does not meet any of the criteria for being included in the district. None of it. There's no structure. The staff has pointed out that it's vacant and cannot contribute adversely or positively toward the district itself. So we're simply asking that, consistent with 27-257, that you approve the recommendation and concur with the staff that it be allowed to move forward in that capacity. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have, but as I said, it doesn't meet any of the criteria to be included in the district.
Thank you for your response, but as this commission and looking into the City of Tampa Code of Ordinance for 27-257, it is important on this commission for us to dive into our questions that we ask. So I will re-ask my question again.
That's
One
fine.
moment,
I'll be
let me-
happy to answer anything you want to ask me.
Thank you.
I'm just trying to set the record back to
Understood.
206 Columbus, which is the subject of the petition.
Right, for the point of clarity, maybe I need to re-ask my question. My question was for the 6-foot masonry wall and landscape buffer that is proposed through the for the two partials. Since the owner is here, or you as a representation for the commission, can you please spell out what that looks like? Because my question was directed to how this could possibly affect, again, the historic boundaries. If you do not understand, maybe I can
No, I
recite it a
understand you.
different way. Thank you.
Well, at this point, it's not designed. And what I was indicating to you was we'll be working with city staff on the design and compatibility and to ensure that there is no adverse impact. And that will happen throughout this process. But that is a commitment to continue working with staff to make sure that happens. We have to work with them anyway on the front retaining wall.
Right.
To make sure that is also consistent. So if you'd like to add that as a condition to continue working with staff on the separation wall, that would be an appropriate request as well.
Thank you for your response. Any other commissioners? I'm sorry. Yes, you were next.
I had a concern about that, the wall also, and to the good doctor's point, I do think, and I appreciate what the staff has explained. I am concerned about the wall and the setting, and I do think I understand there's a fine line with the setting of the district and the setting of this house if we were looking at it on its own. But that is a concern, so I'm not sure if we have the ability to have a condition. I'll get back to that. I think I know the answer. But I do think that it does affect the setting. And again, how significantly, I think I'm okay with it. To that side of the lot, what's the setback from the Pippin house to the lot line? Do we know that?
Approximately 7 feet.
7?
Yeah. Eli Payne, Bayside Engineering, engineer of record for the project.
And
I submitted a copy of the old survey.
yes,
Or the new survey for that property.
yeah,
I think it's like 6.9 or something feet.
okay. Can't really tell.
Can you speak into the mic?
Yep, Eli Payne, Bayside Engineering.
And could the staff put the slide that shows the lots and the, like the original lots, not the Sanborn, but the,
You want our diagram?
the one that shows like the green, the red, and the blue, I think.
That's from staff.
I think it was one of the initial slides in the staff's presentation.
You wanted to see that
That-
on the
yeah,
the
that's good.
plat, or, okay.
That's good. So, well, there might be one with if there's one that shows the lot lines. So, the blue is a separate lot. Oh,
Oops, sorry.
yeah. Okay, so that's what I thought.
Here's the original, here's the lots prior to 2023 when they split it off. And what they split off here was
Okay.
the area in green. And they
Right.
added it from 202 to 206.
Okay, so this portion, the lot we're speaking about,
Is-
was never its own lot, platted lot?
Are you, historically, are you asking that? There was a
Yeah.
house there at some point in the future, or in the past, that Elaine pointed out, but it's long since been gone.
Right, but is that a lot? Is that
It's a vacant lot.
sliver,
But I
what's,
think-
like is it
Let me-
lot
Let
3
me
or
show this,
something?
please.
Yeah, so the old,
If I understand the commissioner's question, are you asking is the 32 feet that's at issue here, was that ever a separate lot with a separate structure on that?
I don't care about the structure.
Okay.
Was it a
Yeah.
separate lot?
That's what her question is.
Yeah,
is
th-
it- was it a
it's
lot
part of
and a
lot
half?
2. Part of lot 2. the property parcel, as far as ownership goes, was originally for the designated area, was part of Lot 1 and, all of Lot 1 and part of Lot 2.
So it was, this,
And
that sliver was part of
never
Lot 2.
its own individual parcel.
This was the entire original platted
I s-
lot with the structure.
Yeah.
That portion of it was split off.
No, bring it
and a-
back. No, bring the other one back.
He's speaking from his.
Okay, but, so I see, this shows what I was trying to ask, the answer. So this, the original parcel was Lot 1 and part of Lot 2.
Correct.
So, and what I'm trying to verify is that the owner didn't, in 2023, did not sell off an illegal, or did they, illegally sell off like a non-conforming or an unbuildable lot? That,
They created that unbuildable lot.
I,
Did
it-
was I
but it-
answering your question, or?
well, I think you are. Regardless of who did it, I guess, but it does matter that they did it. Is this a buildable lot, or was there, something that was sold off, and now we're fixing it by combining with the other half of the lot?
Currently, it's not a buildable lot. It would be considered, and I'm sure you're familiar with this phrase, an uneconomic remainder, that
Yes.
I'm guessing, but why they did it, to sell it off, was because they realized that the other lots that they sold further to the west were not buildable either, without recombining it back with this property. And then the complication enters where it was also included in the historic district, which they did not disclose to these gentlemen when that happened. So, there's a long string here
Yeah,
that confounds the problem.
I appreciate that, I understand. But, so you've answered my questions. So now I'll go back to asking, the 6-foot wall does bother me, and I know that's gonna come up in a future PD. I do think that will adversely affect the setting of the Pippin House more, and I don't expect you to have a design in your pocket, but is that something that we could condition?
Kamaria Pettis-Malco from the City Attorney's Office. Code Section 27-257 does not contemplate this commission making a condition for the recommendation to City Council.
Commissioners, we've stated on the record, and the staff knows, we will continue to work with them on the design, and the owners have indicated, the petitioner owners have indicated that they would make it compatible with the design of the wall that's along the front, so that it would also have some historic identity and character that would continue down the side property line.
Right. I don't want to get in trouble, so I'll just say this one thing. I think I'm sure the design will be good, and I know there's another opportunity for the staff to get involved. I think the 6 foot, only 7 feet from the property line is, I won't speak for others, is part of the issue of the setting, so hopefully that will be addressed later.
Yeah, the proposal is to have a multifamily townhouse style development adjacent to a commercial use. So that property at 202 is no longer residential in nature. It's general commercial, it's an office. So if you were concerned about impact on residences, that kind of goes away. But we can, when we go through the rest of the PD process, we can prepare some design cut sheets that show what's being proposed. And I think it's a good question. How do you protect the integrity of that house?
Yep.
and their intention is to protect it and to demonstrate that. So I'm sure that we have no issue bringing forward a design when it goes through the PD process. And you'll have an opportunity, I mean, as individuals, you could see it, or we can send it to staff, and staff can certainly share it with you.
I'm sure the staff has heard some of our concerns.
Thank you so much for your eloquently explaining what's going on. But and thank you for retaining the original wall, because I think it shows what the property looked like originally. But I do have a question for Elaine Lund. And it's just more of a clarification question for myself and the commission. But so my understanding of not 202, not 206, but 202 is that because it was a satellite property for a district, it doesn't have individual designation. Therefore, in 2023, there were no restrictions for the owner to sell off a parcel of the land. Is that my understanding?
The ownership of the site and selling off parcels, there was a formal determination done to allow the lot split.
Okay.
And that does not contemplate whether or not the property's in a historic district.
Okay.
That's part of
But-
a separate review.
Yeah, so if it was an individual, it would, right?
If it were an individual, I'm not sure that it would either.
Oh, okay.
Is a change of ownership not considered an adverse effect? Usually
I'm not aware that our code,
it is under National Register, but
contemplates that.
Yeah, so,
Ms. Lund, just to clarify, for the city attorney's office, you're clarifying what the criteria is for a lot split in
Yes.
chapter 27? Okay, that's what she's talking about, that criteria, so, okay.
so then we really don't have it's not really anything to talk about because that's something that's unavoidable. So the owner did create the issue and the lot, you have to do something with it. So I just wanted to clarify that, that's it.
can I just make one quick suggestion to consider for the staff is that if you're interested in preserving the wall, you could record it as a linear resource with the Florida Master Site file, because if the property is ineligible, I don't see where the city has any leverage to protect the wall. But if you record it as a linear resource, you have some, potentially some.
Okay.
Thank you. So if I could just follow up on a couple of things for the applicant, please. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So we are not in any position to give you any direction on the PD, and I don't intend to do that. But the applicant did submit the PD with the package as part of their application. And since I have vision, I did look at it. You also wrote a letter. There were two things that are inconsistent, though, with the PD that you have presented to us. That is, you have mentioned in the written description that you will preserve that landscape wall, though it is not so designated on the PD. So I don't know where you are in that process. I'm only pointing it out that it is not there, but you have made it part of your application.
Yes, sir.
The 6-foot wall also not shown on there, but it is mentioned in the application. And as other folks have said, there may be concern about
Yeah,
that in the future.
that information was included as supplemental information, and it was not a requirement of the application itself. It was for informational
that.
purposes, and that also is a work in progress. So we still have staff comments to deal with regarding other matters, but, you know, we've made a commitment on the record to make sure that it was treated compatibly and to deal with
The record being
This
this document. But
Yeah, this
if you
record.
submit a PD and it's not on the PD, it's not a commitment, is my understanding from having been involved in those
No, I understand.
myself.
I'm well known to the city staff.
I know you are.
And the commission, and I'm not in the habit of lying to you or misrepresenting the facts. And so, you know, if we've made a commitment here on the record, we're gonna follow through with it. And so you
So
have
let me-
our assurance that we'll do that.
Thank you. Let me ask one other thing, though. So we're to consider taking reducing or removing or changing the boundary of the existing local historic district. But I fail to see actually why it's even necessary to do that, to develop the lot, because there's really only, 3-4 feet of the building that encroaches into it. So I don't understand why it wouldn't just be developed as any normal new construction within a local historic district and go through the normal review process.
It adds additional criteria to the redevelopment, and it splits the proposed new development in half.
So this is about the owner's pro forma?
No, it has nothing to do with pro forma. I'm talking about design guidelines and,
Well, I assume there's cost involved.
well, I understand, but
Yeah.
again, the economic elements of this is not part of the criteria. We've met the criteria for it being considered to be removed, and it's a satellite area. It's not contiguous to the main area.
I don't see any criteria, as I've noticed, in the code for removal. We only have criteria for designation, and it seems to have met the criteria when it was designated. So, and there is a structure here. It's the historic landscape wall, which has been there for over 100 years. So I'm not convinced that it should be.
Question or you commenting?
And keep in mind, we haven't,
This is, we still have to have public comment.
Yeah.
So are you asking, we're at the questioning phase.
I'll just make it a comment at this point. Thank you.
Don't worry about it.
is there any response from,
Well,
He
the,
still has rebuttal. He still has rebuttal, but we still have to do
you
public
know,
comment.
the wall in the front is in the right of way. That's not on private property. We've committed to maintaining it, restoring it, and continuing it along the entire frontage in the right of way. So even if our PD showed it or didn't show it, we don't have jurisdiction over that. That's a right of way permit. That is also part of this whole process. And, you know, we're trying our best to make a better situation out of a bad one. And one which, until they got into the redevelopment process, didn't even know it was in his district. So, I mean, you know, we have to, you don't have to, but I think that you would trust that we're coming to you in good faith and working with the city staff and saying, okay, we're gonna make it better. And the vacant lot doesn't qualify. The right-of-way doesn't qualify. The side, you know, whatever the treatment is, it will be sensitive to the adjacent property. And you have it on the record, and certainly, you know, if we violate that, call me and say, hey, you didn't follow through. And I value my integrity, and when I get up in front of a board, I said, okay, this is what we're gonna do, we do it. And I would appreciate, you know, the consideration. I value your opinion, and coming down on a Tuesday morning when this is the only hearing you're gonna have, except for the staff representation, that's a commitment on your part, and we appreciate that. So you know, like I said, we come to you with a fair and honest proposal, and we're gonna stay with it. The staff has heard us. They're not gonna let us off the hook either. So we'd respectfully appreciate your approval for this being removed from the historic district as a satellite. It's not even contiguous, but I appreciate your time.
thank you. At this time, we will open up for public comment. If you would like to speak, come now and state your name and full address. At this time, seeing none, this will be,
He still has.
his rebuttal.
He still has rebuttal.
Yeah.
Unless you have any questions, I defer and allow my other comments to stand. But I would appreciate your time, and as I said, thank you for coming down on Tuesday morning when this is the only issue before you.
Thank you. At this time, if we could have a recommendation from the commission.
I move to recommend to Tampa City Council that we approve the request to remove the property at 206 West Columbus Drive from the Tampa Heights Historic District, because the application doesn't meet the criteria in the Land Development Code 27-2 257 for, one, the vacant lot's vacant, it doesn't contribute to the historic district. Whatever's going to be built on it will not be subject to the historic criteria, and it doesn't adversely affect the Pippin House significantly or affect the greater Tampa Heights Historic District.
Is that good? I make a motion to second that.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed?
No.
Seeing four in agreement and one opposed, we move forward to recommend that City Council approve the request to remove the property at 206 West Columbus Drive from the Tampa Heights Historic District for this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. We appreciate your help.
Okay. Commissioners, Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. Moving down our agenda, we just have for you here a brief update about our, the Historic Preservation Interstate Trust Fund program. This is a program that the city has that provides grants and loans for certain historic properties in the certain historic districts that were impacted by the interstate construction widening in the city. The program began in 2005. It was originated through the Section 106 process with the Florida Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Authority. The mission of the program is to accelerate the exterior historic preservation of properties in the National Register historic districts of Tampa Heights and West Tampa and the National Historic Landmark District of Ybor City. Over the years, we have awarded quite a bit in grants and loans, and there's also a matching grant program for certain nonprofit organizations that were impacted by the interstate widening. Currently, we have about a little over $480,000 available for grants, over $4 million available for loans, and about $76,000 available in our matching grant program. As I stated, these do have to be in certain national historic district boundaries. So those are shown on the maps that we have here for West Tampa, Tampa Heights, and Ybor City. Generally, these properties, in addition to being in those certain locations, must be at least 75 years old, and all the proposed projects must adhere to the Secretary of the Interior standards and the applicable design guidelines for those historic districts that have them. Funds cannot be used for acquiring the property, and the work must not have begun yet so that it can be properly reviewed first by the board. We do have about 2 open cycles per year for the grant program. The applicants can apply for up to $25,000 now. We've raised the upper limit on that. The properties have to be the legal homestead and residence of the applicants for the grant program, and there are also income limits for this program as well. Eligible activities include structural stabilization and exterior restoration, rehabilitation, or reconstruction of architectural details. When evaluating the applications, we look at how the projects relate to the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, how the project alleviates or prevents endangerment of the particular property, the thoroughness of the application, the significance of the structure, and the financial need of the applicant for the grant program. For the loan program, this is a low-interest loan program. Applicants can apply for up to $400,000 per project. These are limited to commercial properties now, and the applications are referred to within the city for financial review and underwriting. The applicants must have sought conventional funding, and the eligible activities are structural stabilization, exterior restoration, rehabilitation, or reconstruction of architectural details, mothballing, electrical, mechanical, and plumbing improvements necessary, some soft costs and minor additions for contemporary adaptations of historic buildings. These loan applications are evaluated based on whether they are a catalyst for historic preservation projects in the immediate vicinity, whether the projects alleviate or prevent endangerment of the property, the significance of the structure, the financial commitments and funding sources, as well as the qualifications of those composing the project team. So we've had several program success stories. We'll just go through a few of these briefly for you. This particular project was a grant program in the Ybor City Historic District. The scope of the project was to repair and replace existing deteriorated wood siding and windows with appropriate materials. You see that the wood windows and the wood siding were restored, repaired and restored for this particular house. It's another grant project where the project was to replace the roof. This is also located in Ybor City, where the appropriate roofing material was the 5V crimp metal roof. Also the soffits and the roof framing were included in the project scope as well. Another grant program, this one in the Tampa Heights Historic District on Jefferson Street. This project included replacing the aluminum windows with wood windows, historically appropriate wood windows and trim, and repair and replace the woods, some of the wood materials and the structural materials and the siding, and removing the metal security bars on the windows. For a loan program, this is the San Souci building in the Ybor City Historic District. This project included structural stabilization, electrical, mechanical, and plumbing, and reconstruction of architectural details, which you see in the storefronts and all along the second story of the building as well there. And then this is another loan program. This was at 507 Park Avenue in the Tampa Heights Historic District. This small house was a investment property. The scope of the project included structural stabilization, including framing and the chimney repair, exterior rehabilitation of the siding, the trim, the ceiling, windows, doors, and roofing. It was a very thorough project, along with some electrical, mechanical, and plumbing upgrades and soft costs. And then I believe this is the last one we have for you to see this morning. Also in the Tampa Heights Historic District on Central Avenue, a building that needed some structural stabilization and rehabilitation and repair of the entire structure, including the roof, the exterior rehabilitation of the siding, the windows, the porch overhangs, and architectural details. You can see how much of the original materials had been missing. Additionally, there was a small addition, I believe, to this particular project as well, just to make the house a little more livable. Oh, and then we have also these three buildings on Morgan Street in the Tampa Heights District. These were relocated from within the historic district to make way for a school construction project, and they were relocated to North Morgan Street. The scope of the project included the full rehabilitation of the exterior and the interior of these structures as well. So I thank you for your time this morning. With that, we move along the agenda to see if we have any new business. Staff has none.
Hi, I would just like to introduce our new intern for our firm. She's been sitting in the audience. Her name's Anaya Nelson, and she is a first-year graduate student at the USF planning school.
Lovely.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you. At this time, could we, is there any new files that need to be submitted as documentations? If not,
Oh, you're talking about, for the.
Motion.
Yeah, can you just make can you just ask for someone to make the motion to receive and file any documents that were received? I think, I don't know if Mr. McLean was showing some documents.
I believe they'd already been submitted to staff.
Okay, so if you could just make the motion, I'd appreciate it, in an abundance of caution, please.
I make a motion to receive and file the documents presented today.
Second.
thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion has been received, has been documented and received to submit the files, submitted for documentation and exhibits. All right, so the time is 10:05 a.m. and we will conclude this historic preservation. Thank you and have a beautiful day.
So, in this state that any owner can perform property improvements on residential properties.